Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Full Spectrum Weekly Shonen Jump Reviews with Trey. So this week we started off with We Never Learn, which is a series that I've been enjoying quite a bit. There are some pretty good gags this week. The whole deal with Ogata's glasses, where Furuhashi thinks that she's mad at her, and then building up into, obviously Naruyuki figuring it out, trying to help her out, Furuhashi's still trying to help, and he gets pushed into her chest. And I'm not really a chest humor kind of person. We see anime protagonists fall on girls' chests all the time, and it honestly gets a little old. But at the same time, this one was not as badly done as they could be. There's no grab, there's no squish, there's no moment where he has to remove his hand or anything. So for the most part, this one's pretty good. Then we get to the next chapter, which is chapter 21, where Yuiga gets a cell phone. And it's amazing what such a little difference to his character, like how much funnier that makes him for me. Because Yuiga has always been the driving force, not as much the humor. Like the humor is balanced around him. He hasn't really been that funny himself, in my opinion. But in this chapter, he's gold. In this chapter, there's so many good gags. And yeah, the joke of him not knowing how to use his phone goes on the entire chapter. The whole chapter basically is built around this joke. But at the same time, he is using this phone. He's trying to figure it out. And the joke never gets old, in my opinion. It sticks around, but it never is the only thing going on. The forced bath scenes are a little, forced. But I get it. Everybody had the same idea after what Takamoto said. It's actually kind of funny to see Ogata be completely fine with it until Yuiga points out how weird it is, and then she realizes what it's like, and then she can't talk anymore. All the stuff with Takamoto, at first it's fine, and then somehow they both turn on video, and that's a little weird. I don't know. I mean, I have my phone. I don't think there's even an option on my phone to go from a voice call to a video call without hanging up the line. But it's fine. Yuiga dropping his phone at the end is funny. It's his family doesn't have a lot of money, so it probably shouldn't be funny. But partly because they don't have a lot of money, the fact that it's gone, something about it it really hits me. It's such a great device to add this new feature, this new function, this new part of Yuiga's character for a single chapter, and then it be gone. It's just gone. These gags were great. They didn't overstay their welcome, and now they're gone. They won't happen again. And I love that. I love it when a series is not afraid to just move on after it has a good, funny moment. And of course, next, we have One Piece. What can I say about the One Piece chapter this week? Parting, chapter 870, starts off with a great cover story picture of Bartolomeo. Then it straight from the beginning is going off. You've got Big Mom attacking Bege. You've got all of the commanders gathered around waiting. Katakuri's giving them all some of his mochi earplugs. They're all just waiting for this whole plan to fall apart. As it is, this plan is doomed at this point. And Luffy obviously wants to go out and fight, because that's what Luffy does. And just to see the other Straw Hats have to hold him back, you get the remembrance that Brook has the poneglyph scratching. Nami talks about how, they saved Sanji's family. And then Sanji chooses now, of all times, to tell his dad exactly what he thinks. Because they're probably all about to die. It's time for his birth dad to find out exactly what he thinks. And just when he calls Zeph we all know that to Sanji, Zeph is his dad. We all know that. But when he says that he couldn't let his family die because he wouldn't be able to look his father in the eye, proudly in the eye, and then grabs Judge by the shirt, pulls him down and says, "You are not my father." It's such a powerful moment that you you even see that Sanji's, he's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just the look on his face. Oda's so great at drawing these expressions. The look on his face is just perfect. This man is, by all rights, his and blood, his family. But this man never cared about him. This man never meant anything to him. Zeph is his real dad. And so then for Judge to say, I understand, you have my word, and then mobilize the forces for Germa 66 to move out, it's just a really powerful moment that I feel like we've been waiting on basically the entire manga. I say that. We didn't know Sanji in chapter 1, obviously, but getting to meet Sanji, figuring out that there was something going on with his family because his wanted poster said alive, not dead or alive. This is the payoff for that moment. And it's really powerful. And then, of course, Big Mom attacks. The Vinsmoke's Reiju is being a little bit overwhelmed, though it seems like she might be able to actually handle herself better than any of us thought she would. And then Luffy and Sanji show up to help her. And it's a really great setup chapter where a lot of people are probably going to look past it going, oh, well, there wasn't really any action this week. But to me, when I look back at Whole Cake Island, the chapters that are going to stand out to me are the moment where Sanji brings the food to Luffy, the moment where Luffy and Sanji fight, the moment where Brook gets the poneglyph and stands up to Big Mom, and then, of course, this moment where Sanji told his birth family what he really feels. So from there we get to the Promised Neverland. And this is a series that I just recently caught up on so that I could start reading it and jump. And this is a really good chapter. As usual, the backgrounds are amazing. The design on the demons are amazing. The character faces are amazing. You get to see the emotion on these character faces. And just like the detail, man, and the bone structure of these demons is crazy. Ray, of course, is helped by this mysterious figure, who later we find out his name's Sonju. They escape, and he's taken to a cave where he finds Emma again, and it seems like everything's going well. The thing that stands out to me about this chapter, though, because, they find out that, or Ray figures out, not really sure how yet, I guess we'll find out next chapter, Ray figures out that the people that help them are demons, and he wants to know what they, he thanks them for saving them, but wants to know what they need them for. But the moment that stands out to me is actually the moment when the demon that's in charge of bringing the kids back cuts down that tree. And just, it's such a powerful moment because this author has such a great way of showing emotion without showing a face. His hand is extended, the fingers outstretched. It's clear that he wants to grip the kids. He's gripping the sword so much that it's creaking. It's just so well done. I don't really have any other words for it. And I can't wait to see what happens when they finally face off with this guy, who we know really nothing about, but has already endeared me in a really weird way for a demon that wants to eat children. I didn't think I'd ever be endeared to that, in his desire to bring these kids back so they can be eaten. Obviously, he doesn't want to protect them, and he can bring them back dead or alive. I don't think he cares. But just that his desire to do this is so powerful, and I think what makes it so potent is that we don't know why. We don't know what's going on with this culture, and it gives us a little glimpse into the fact that they need these kids for some reason. So, I can't wait for the next chapter. This was a great chapter of The Promised Neverland. Just can't wait to find out how Ray figured it out, what's going on with those demons. Next chapter next week. We'll find out. We'll find out, listeners. Dr. Stone comes up next. And Dr. Stone, said it before on the podcast, I really enjoy where this series started. I was a little perturbed by some of the middle stuff, but we're making some progress. Now we're on chapter 17. Things have gotten interesting in a way that I didn't expect. I really thought we'd be focusing on Taiju, but after last chapter, when we go with Senku, I didn't expect it. And now we're still with Senku, and it looks like we're probably going to be with Senku for a while. I'm curious, when we do go back to Taiju, are we going to go back to Taiju as of this moment? Or are we going to go back to Taiju after a skip? Regardless, Senku meets up with this girl Kohaku that he helped last chapter. He calls her a lioness a couple times. It's a pretty good little joke. It's, of course, interesting that she sleeps out in the open with a dagger. She's prepared. These people are not just your average anime, like, city civilization people. That's a bad way to put that. Citizens, I guess, maybe. They're fighters. They know their way around this environment. And it's clear that they don't really trust people from what we find out later in the chapter. She's gathering water for her sister. Senku tells her that it's pretty dumb to carry it like that all day. Builds her a little cart out of the stuff they used the day before. There's a really nice gag where Senku tries to act tough and shows that he's going to carry the water. And then the very next panel is him collapsed under the water with most of it spilling out. It's little stuff like that is what I really appreciate about Dr. Stone. It's not afraid of doing quick, funny moments. Then, of course, we get to the village, and things are going really interesting there. They have this rule where anyone who is an outsider is not allowed into their village, because since they're the only humans around, anyone who's an outsider must be either a criminal that they banished or the descendant of a criminal that they banished. I just find that really interesting of an idea. They have 40 healthy people, and a really weird thing, we get all of them in like a yearbook layout with their names and their faces, including one guy who just doesn't get a name. I'm really curious what's going on with that guy. He looks a little crazy, but there's a lot we can learn about just this civilization just based on their names. Because you have, your regular anime names, Genbu, Hagane, and then you have names like Garbo, and Argo, and Mantle, and Turquoise, and Jasper. And the ones that really stuck out the most to me are Alabaster, Chrome, Shovel, Chalk. So I want to know... Also, Chalk is a dog, by the way, it looks like. I want to know how they name their people. I want to know what their goal is. Do they have ancient writings that they're recounting the names from? Is there an old man that names everybody? I'm really curious. Chrome, when I look at him and Titan look like main characters. And I'm a bit concerned that they might steal some of the spotlight, because they just have that look on their face of... They're the type of person you'd expect to be sitting the fourth seat from the back on the left side in the classroom by the window, if you know what I mean. Senku gets attacked by Genro and Kinro. And that's a really nice moment where Kohaku puts them in their place. And then Senku pulls some water out and grabs what looks like a bar of lye and rubs the water on it so that it makes bubbles. And Kohaku has an immediate reaction of just like sorcery. And it's clear that she's a bit concerned, obviously, as she should be. She thinks that Senku is a sorcerer after all. And then Senku blows bubbles, and there are bubbles flying everywhere. And in this really amazing moment, you have Genro, pop a bubble while telling it to halt. Because they don't know what bubbles are. And then Kinro explains, or he says, how mysterious flying jewels. And it's just it's a really cool moment that I'm excited to see a lot more of. Because when Senku sees this, he gets excited. And the look on his face is, Kaku doesn't really like it that much, but he gets extremely excited. And I want to see what Senku will do with these people. What kind of things he'll be able to do. The reaction that they'll have with that. And then, of course, the only thing that worries me a little bit is that the chapter ends up with Kohaku telling Senku that he needs to recruit Chrome. Because Chrome is the most easygoing of them all. Again, I'm a bit concerned that this Chrome guy is going to take a lot of the spotlight, but who knows? Maybe he'll be a really interesting character. I wasn't super sold on Kohaku when we saw her last chapter, but she's grown on me. So who knows? It'll be nice to have a few more characters than 4. So from there we go into Shokugeki no Soma. Chapter 221 has the continuing of the Shokugeki. This time it's, Megishima against, of course, the wonderful, the beautiful, the amazing Rindo. I love Rindo. She's so interesting because she's so different from most of the other people we've seen so far. Her facial expressions are great. She's a bit crazy. And I find that part of her character really interesting in that she's got a plan at all times. She's got secrets at all times. And again, we see that with most of the characters in this series. They always have something up their sleeve. But she specifically worries me. When she smiles at Megishima, I'm like, Megishima gets mad props from me. Because he's solid. He's not at all broken by that. He's fine. I feel like a lot of chefs have probably just buckled under that. They're both making dishes with red pepper, with a lot of it, a whole lot of it. And Megishima has African ramen that he's making, and that's, again, they talk about how that doesn't exist, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he's gonna do there. He's a pretty interesting character. I'm looking forward to learn a little bit more about their backstory, you know. But all told, these chapters have been really good. It just feels a little slow. We've been in this Shokugeki for a while now. I'm ready to... Granted, that's what this series is about. You can't expect anything other than Shokugekis from Shokugeki no Soma. But I want to see Food Wars... I don't know. I guess I'm just ready to see the other end of this already. We've been here for a while. At the same time, these are all really interesting bouts. Like, every one of them's really cool. And then, of course, getting to see that Ishiki had already talked to everybody beforehand, before Soma called him, is a pretty nice touch. It just feels like every chapter we get less and less of Soma, and he was always what was really interesting to me about this series. But, I don't know, that could change. There's some really good reactions with him and a few of the other characters about the recipes, about things they're not aware of, so... You know, we're going to keep making it through these fights, and we'll eventually get there. And as long as they're great, like they have been, I'm still down to keep reading them. Next up is Cross Account. Cross Account was something that when I read it last week, in the first issue, I didn't know how I'd feel about it. Even after I was done, I didn't really know how I felt on it. I think the premise is really interesting, but I'm afraid that it's going to turn into a who do you love kind of situation, where once he figures out that, and this is a sentence I never thought I'd say out loud, once he figures out that Poophead is a girl, and specifically that she's Nanako, I'm just afraid that he's going to be really torn on that and have the kind of reaction that wouldn't feel right for his character at the start. I don't know. We'll have to see. So far, these characters have been written really interestingly. It's such a weird premise that at the same time makes perfect sense. Like, it's so weird that these two different premises have been tied together like this. The guy that nobody pays attention to, I mean, Kuroko Basuke, right? But the guy that nobody pays attention to and the girl that wants people to see her for who she really is, that's a tale as old as time, basically. That's a plot that's been used in a lot of stuff. But then to tie that with this social media stuff is really cool. I'm really excited to see where it goes. And of course, this chapter we got the handshake event. And I was getting a little tense too. I'm not going to deny it. While Nanika is there, like, checking his statuses on her watch, like, I was getting a little nervous too. This build-up was going for a while, and as she's systematically saying, no, this can't be him, no, this can't be him. And I'm sitting over here, I know who he is, clearly, but it was tense in a really interesting way, because I wanted her to meet him, but at the same time, I didn't want her to meet him. And so when they finally do, they shake hands. She recognizes him immediately. She knows it's him. I don't know if it's that the way he's standing, if it's just that his image of her, or her image of him, matches up perfectly with who he really is. That's what it seems like by the fact that she sees the body with the Mr. Harmful head on top. But it looks like she's super interested right away. She kind of freezes up, and then she takes his hand when he tells her that he loves her smile and holds it up to her head and seems genuinely touched. And it makes me feel like this romance will actually probably work out pretty well. I hope. I want it to, anyway. I hope best friend character, childhood best friend, doesn't become a problem in this. Because these two characters are great. I like them. I like them a lot. I didn't expect to, but I do. And then, of course, the event ends with her saying, it's not really fair. And it's absolutely true it's not fair. And him saying that, I'll never get to see her again, and her telling him, don't wait for a miracle, you gotta make it happen. Never give up. I'm really excited to see where this series lands, and I'm kind of afraid it's not going to hit very well. I'm kind of afraid that it's going to just fall off. Jump hasn't really been known for... Let me reword that. Jump has had some bad romances in the past. Some romances that kind of drug people along, I guess is the best way to word that. And so I'm a bit worried that people won't take to this. But I hope it does well. I'm really excited for it. Then there's Robot and Laserbeam. Robot and Laserbeam, this chapter was really good. This is another one of those series that I wasn't sure on at the start, but I have definitely come around on it. And just to see Robota not understand what it means to be excited, that he's never felt this way before, that he's trembling and he's ignoring people, but he just wants to win. And when it gets pointed out to him, he's like, oh, I want to win? Me? And it's just this really cool moment because he's been shown to never have any drive before. Ha, drive, get it? And he's here on the golf course now about to face off against this legend in his age group. And he's excited. And then, of course, you immediately have the parallel with that of Kazama, who is super stressed out and super worried. And it's so cool to see both of those things be in the same chapter. Normally, this would be one of those things where you'd have a chapter just dedicated to Robota and his all excitement, and then a chapter dedicated to Kazama and his worries and having to overcome them. But the author here is doing a great job of showing the parallels. And when Kazama gets up to bat, he makes his shot and he lands in the rough. He's having a tough time of it. Just for Kyosuke Suzaku to come out. And Suzaku here is the best. He knows it. He barely spends any time lining up. He walks up and just hits the ball. Everybody's, of course, super shocked. But then Robo comes up. Robo now looking completely calm. He's obviously not. He's excited. He wants to do this. Looking completely calm. He grips his hand. He takes the shot. It's almost the exact same shot as what Suzaku just put out. Everybody, of course, is shocked. But then you see Robo completely calm. Apologize to Suzaku for not telling him here's to a good game before. And then you see Suzaku trembling because he's so excited. And again, you get just the parallels. This author has such a great job of leading you along. And the moment where Robo's golf ball hits Suzaku's, man, I've never had a moment where reading a golf manga I expected to get hype. But the moment it hits, I was just like, oh! So good. So good. What can I say about this chapter of My Hero Academia? Boku no Hero Academia. This fight, chapter 143. This fight between Fat Gum, Kirishima, Rappa, and Tengai. Rappa and Tengai, by the way, I love Overhaul's crew. Overhaul's crew is great. And Rappa and Tengai are already becoming two of my favorites. Rappa just wants a good scrap. Rappa be scrapping. And then Tengai just wants to protect him. It's his job. He just has to do his job. What can you do? To the point where Rappa's calling Overhaul over jerk and Tengai's having to correct him. Fat Gum putting up a great fight. Taking all these blows. And you just see... You see the despair in Kirishima. It's so clear. Again, I feel like this specific issue of Shonen Jump of Weekly Shonen Jump by Viz, has been so good at showing emotions. And you just have this moment where he's he says he's useless, and you feel like you're being sucked into the background here. You feel like you're being sucked into these emotions that he's having. So when Tengai sees him and writes him off, it's completely understandable why. Kirishima's lost. So then Fat Gum reveals that he's been absorbing all these attacks with the intention to return them in the form of his own spear. Rappa gets so excited that he rips his mask while yelling, comes in for the final blow, and Kirishima blocks it. Kirishima blocks it, plants his feet, and begins rehardening his skin anytime it's broken. Lets out this great roar. Then goes to hit Rappa. And it's so hype. And Tengai puts up a barrier. Rappa looks furious. And then Kirishima falls, only to reveal that Fat Gum is ready. That Kirishima defended him just when he needed it. He stepped up like a real hero, because that's what he is. Kirishima is a hero. I dare to say that Kirishima is one of the most heroic out of the main cast, except for maybe Deku and Ida. But he steps up, and he takes that hit, and Fat Gum's ready to go. And I can't wait for next chapter. Just can't wait. This chapter was short. This chapter felt like it was gone immediately, but I don't care because it was so good. The despair followed by that roar of challenge to his own fear, only for it to be completely blocked by Tengai's barrier. It's so good. Oh, I can't wait for next week. We gotta move on. We gotta keep going. So next up is Hunter x Hunter. Man, Hunter x Hunter's weird. Like always. It's always weird. I love it. I love it so much. But this is such a weird chapter. I mean, we knew a little bit about the Nin Beast before. This chapter, obviously, we learn a lot more. But what is up with Sarah's Nin Beast, man? This horse with the woman's head that has another head inside it. The tongue sticks out and it's got eyes on it. Man, I don't know what's going on anymore. This is not what I signed up for with Hunter x Hunter. I mean, I'm going to keep reading it, don't get me wrong. Hiatus only comes out so much, but this is weird. The story always takes weird turns in Hunter x Hunter. That's nothing new. It's nothing new at all. It's completely expected for the story to take weird turns. I mean, if you had told me when I first started the series that the Chimera Ant arc was going to happen, I'd have told you you're lying, that this show would never do that. Clearly, Hunter x Hunter loves to surprise you, but I don't really like this Nin Beast stuff. I don't know, I loved it when, they had their own Nin abilities and everybody, it was cool. I love Nin. The rules of Nin are really strong. But this whole, taming Nin Beasts, I mean, of course there'd be Nin Beasts in this part of the world. Of course there would be. It only makes sense. But, I don't know. Gonna have to wait and see. As usual, I still feel like we're spending way too much time with these characters. I want to get back to Kurapika and the other Zodiacs, but, it's fine. It's fine. We'll move on. Can't stop thinking about that horse, man. The weird... What's up with that horse? Alright, we're moving on. Moving on to One Punch Man. We're going to talk about some One Punch Man. Talk about some One Punch Man number 70. Finishing up this week, we have One Punch Man. Suiryu is putting up a great fight. Man, I really didn't like him earlier on in this arc. I really didn't, but he's coming around for me. I was really impressed with the way he fought with Chosei, and just being awesome. I mean, it's not easy. for people that aren't Saitama in this manga that fight monsters. We see all the time they get hurt. But to see Tsuryu block the attack, and then Tsuryu kicks the blast into the sky. Jose, of course, isn't done by this, and comes after him again, and they have this really cool fight around Gaikotsu, and it's really nifty. And then he gets offered to become a monster. And it looks for just a second like he's going to do it. For just a second like he's going to take it. And he throws it in Gaikotsu's face. And man, it's just... Again, I hated Tsuryu earlier on. Because he was a cool character. But his utter disdain for heroes, like, I didn't expect to dislike him as much as I did. And I know he's doing this just to get a date. I'm aware. But he's putting up the fight of his life. And when he throws that back in Gaikotsu's face and tries to kick him, and is just smacked down in a single hit, it's just this... It's, again, one knows how to write, Murata knows how to draw. It's unexpected. We know Gaikotsu is strong. We know Goketsu's strong. It's just... We get to see Tsuryu putting up such a fight only to be completely shut down. I don't know. This was a really good chapter. I'm excited, as always, for more One Punch Man. I don't think there'll ever be a moment where I'm not excited for One Punch Man. But finally, we'll move on into the author's comments, because this is one of my favorite parts of Shonen Jump every week. And if you're reading Viz's version and you're not reading the author comments, you're missing out. And we have some gems this week. Oda is buying the protein drinks that Gak drinks. He wants to be like Gak. Boichi from Dr. Stone has this great comment that, of course, about how it's hard to draw 40 new characters just like that. Of course it is. That was probably a nightmare. I feel so bad for you. I'm glad that worked out so well. Then of course you have just this really, it's a small thing. It is. But it's real powerful to me. Horikoshi talking about how she got her Figma and Ninjaroid Dekus. It's like, yeah. And then Togashi talking about his GPS. Sure. Alright, well that will wrap up this episode of our Shonen Jump breakdowns for the Full Spectrum podcast. I hope you will join me next week, when we break down Shonen Jump again, like we always do. If you are interested in finding out where I'm reading this, it is on Viz.com, and I'm reading Viz's version of the Weekly Shonen Jump, digital issue, translated. Again, we're not sponsored by Viz or anything, but I love Shonen Jump, and this is a great way to read it legally. This is a great way to support Jump, and to be able to share it with all of you. So I will talk to you guys next week. And as always, remember to enjoy the full spectrum that life has to offer.